Okay, I want you to stop for just a second and really listen. Um, if you feel like you're always being misunderstood, or
Yeah.
maybe you notice people just kind of tuning you out.
Yeah, it's tough to face, but there's often a really simple, if kind of painful truth right at the core of it.
Exactly. You might just be talking too much.
Mm-hmm. Filling every silence, explaining every little choice.
Constantly seeking validation with just, well, endless words.
And without realizing it, you're giving away your power, systematically.
Now, this isn't about becoming shy or withdrawn. Not at all.
No, this is about strategic command. And today, for this deep dive, we're actually going way back, like 2,000 years, to the ancient truths of Stoicism.
Right. We're looking at figures like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca.
We're taking the framework they built and using it to, well, reconstruct your presence, your power, and ultimately your peace by mastering disciplined silence.
Okay, so this is a practical mission then. We're aiming to show you exactly how maybe careless speaking is sabotaging your growth.
And give you those ancient steps you need to reverse that damage, starting right now.
All right, let's jump in. Where do we begin with the source material?
We start with what the Stoics considered essentially the first weapon of a disciplined mind, which is disciplined silence itself.
It's interesting because when you look around today, especially online, silence seems almost terrifying, doesn't it?
It really does. We've somehow turned into constant broadcasters. Every single thought, every half-formed opinion, even our insecurities.
Yeah, share it immediately.
Right. We're all constantly speaking, but the irony is maybe we've never felt less heard.
And that constant noise, you're saying it's a credibility destroyer.
Absolutely. Epictetus nailed this centuries ago. He observed, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak."
We've totally flipped that ratio, haven't we? Thinking volume equals value.
We have. And think about what happens when you speak too much. You reveal everything.
Like what, your strategy?
Your strategies you should be keeping close, yeah. You broadcast your anxieties before you've even worked through them. You give away that mystery.
The mystery that makes someone compelling.
Exactly. The wise person, the Stoic ideal, sits back, they observe, they gather critical intelligence while everyone else is, scrambling to claim the floor.
It's like an exercise in information asymmetry.
That's a great way to put it. The listener gains insight, the talker just gives it away.
So is there a practical tool for this, like something actionable?
There is. The Stoics developed the famous 3 filters. Before you speak, you ask yourself 3 questions.
Okay, what are they?
First, is it true? Second, is it necessary? And third, is it kind?
True, necessary, kind. Simple enough.
Simple to list, maybe? But the real discipline isn't just asking, it's the commitment.
Meaning?
Meaning, if the thing you're about to say fails even one of those filters, the Stoic commitment is to literally swallow the words. Let them die unspoken.
Wow, that takes serious discipline.
It does, and that silence, that choice not to speak, it transitions perfectly into the next idea, which is building power through mystery.
Okay. Familiarity breeds contempt. Is that the connection?
That's the connection. It sounds a bit harsh, maybe, but think about it. If people can predict your exact emotional reaction to everything,
Or your opinion on every minor issue.
or your next big move,
Yeah.
they just stop paying attention. You stop being, well, a dynamic force. You become predictable.
And the sources point to Marcus Aurelius as the prime example here.
The ultimate example. Here's the most powerful man in the known world, right?
Yeah.
Yet he kept his deepest philosophical thoughts private. His meditations.
Yeah.
That was literally his private journal. A conversation with himself, never meant for public eyes.
And that privacy, that maintained his authority, his mystique.
Absolutely. That private discipline helped maintain this profound, almost mythic authority he had.
But today, we have this culture of, chronic oversharing. We call it authenticity.
Exactly. And the Stoics would argue that constantly broadcasting the minute details of our struggles and anxieties, well, often that's just weakness looking for validation. It's not strength.
Okay, I get the theory, but I have to push back a little. In today's world, with networking, personal branding, isn't there a risk
What kind of risk?
that keeping everything hidden makes you seem aloof or cold, maybe even untrustworthy? People might think you have something to hide.
That's a really crucial modern question, and the Stoics weren't advocating for deception. The distinction is subtle but important. It's between strategic vulnerability and chronic oversharing.
Okay, unpack that. Strategic versus chronic.
Strategic means you keep your struggles private until they become victories. You keep your big, ambitious plans under wraps until they're actual, completed achievements.
Why? What's the benefit?
Because rarity creates value. People respect the finished result far, far more than they respect the announcement or the play-by-play of the struggle.
So your silence lets you build substance first.
Exactly. And that substance is far more magnetic, far more powerful than any fleeting moment of, look how authentic I am, transparency.
Okay. That makes sense. And it feels like it leads right into the next challenge, self-authority.
It does. And this next principle is incredibly difficult for most people to adopt, I think.
Which is?
Your need to explain yourself is actively killing your authority.
Oof. Okay, so
Yeah.
constantly defending choices. That's not transparency.
The Stoics would say no, it's broadcasting insecurity. It's that desperate need for approval, and people can sense desperation easily.
Right. True authority.
Yeah,
It doesn't need to apologize for existing.
precisely. Think about the mountain analogy you mentioned. Does the mountain explain why it stands tall?
No, it just is.
It just is. But I hear the counter-argument already forming.
Yeah, because if you make a decision, especially one affecting others, and you just state it without any background, won't people assume the worst? Think you're being dismissive or hiding something?
They might, sure. But the Stoic insight here is crucial. That assumption is theirs. It's not your responsibility to manage their internal reaction.
So you don't owe them an explanation.
Not necessarily. Marcus Aurelius gave us the mindset for this. He said, reject your sense of injury and the injury itself disappears.
How does that apply here?
If someone questions your motives or challenges your decision, you don't owe them a full dissertation explaining your entire inner life or reasoning process, their doubt. That's their responsibility, not yours.
Okay, but practically speaking, how do we apply this? Because that reflex to jump in and defend yourself is really strong.
It is. So you practice. You practice short, direct, and final responses.
Like what? Give me an example.
When faced with unnecessary critique or probing questions, you deploy phrases that close the door politely. Things like, it works for me, or these are my priorities right now. Simple, direct.
And that protects your energy.
It protects your mental energy, absolutely. And maybe paradoxically, that lack of desperate defense actually builds genuine respect.
Why? Because you're signaling your confidence is internal.
Exactly. It shows your confidence isn't dependent on their validation or approval.
Okay. This protective stance, it seems like it ties directly into the emotional side of things, too.
It does. Which brings us to another key insight. Every single time you react emotionally, you lose.
You lose. Why?
Because an emotional reaction is fundamentally predictable, and predictable people are controllable people.
So if someone can easily trigger you,
They own you, in a sense. You become a slave to external triggers, to the whims of other people, to circumstances outside your control.
this sounds like Epictetus again. That warning he gave.
The powerful one. Any person capable of angering you becomes your master. Think about that.
If you let someone else dictate your inner emotional state with just a careless comment or, an unfair criticism,
You've literally handed them the remote control to your peace of mind, your inner state.
that's mental slavery, isn't it?
It really is. And think about how much energy we waste replaying arguments in our heads, right? Crafting that perfect comeback we wish we'd said.
Hours sometimes. Days even.
All that intellectual energy. It should be fueling productive work, not endless internal conflict. Which is why Seneca's advice here is so vital.
Which was?
His primary remedy for anger is incredibly simple, but profoundly difficult to practice. The greatest remedy for anger is delay.
Delay. Just pause. Give the fire a chance to burn out before you act.
Exactly. You have to consciously create that cognitive space, that gap between the stimulus, the insult, the criticism, whatever it is, and your response.
Because once those angry words are out,
they're out. They're indelible. And one single emotional outburst, just one, can undo months, maybe even years of carefully built reputation.
so you're choosing the long-term mission over the short-term ego hit.
That's the discipline. And building boundaries is part of that same protective strategy. Strategic silence protects your peace from, well, what we might call energy vampires today.
Right. Guarding your inner citadel, as Aurelius put it.
Your peace is your primary responsibility, no one else's. And strategic silence. It's often the most effective boundary you can set. It says, quietly but firmly, I'm not available for that drama.
So this means resisting that impulse to jump in and offer advice to people who just complain but never change.
Yes. Or refusing to get sucked into gossip, or endless cynical conversations that go nowhere. You're filtering the
And
noise,
when you stop feeding those dysfunctional dynamics with your attention,
which is your most valuable currency, your attention.
right, then those dynamics just die off.
They wither. Your silence acts like an invisible shield. It filters out the constant noise, the petty demands that drain your focus and pull you away from what really matters, execution.
Okay, this feels like it's building towards something even harder. The ultimate Stoic test, maybe,
Yeah.
non-response.
Exactly. When you're faced with an insult or provocation or even just passive aggression, the most powerful response is very often no response at all.
Why is that so powerful? Because your reaction is their victory.
Precisely. If you react to an insult, you implicitly validate the attacker's opinion. You grant their words authority over your emotional state.
So the person who can insult you and get zero reaction,
That person has zero power over you in that moment. None.
that feels profoundly unnatural, though, especially today. Our culture often rewards confrontation, arguing back, defending your honor immediately. Your ego screams at you to respond.
It does. The ego wants that immediate satisfaction. But Stoicism teaches you to play the long game.
How so?
Your reputation isn't built in winning one spat online or one argument at work. It's built over years of consistent, often silent action and integrity.
So non-response actually disarms the attacker.
Instantly. It shows an internal stability, a kind of centeredness that observers deeply respect. And just as importantly, it protects your peace. You don't spend the next 3 hours replaying the conflict in your head.
Okay, so we've covered silence for protection, for control, for maintaining authority. What about for creation? For actually building things?
Yes. Now we shift gears slightly. And here's a principle that, interestingly, modern psychology has actually confirmed.
Such as?
Talking about your goals kills your goals.
Really? How does that work?
The Stoics seem to understand intuitively what we now call the dopamine deception. When you announce a big goal publicly, I'm going to run a marathon, or I'm launching this amazing new company.
Yeah. You get validation, people congratulate you.
Exactly. Your brain immediately gives you a little hit of dopamine, a reward. That public declaration creates a false sense of accomplishment,
So you feel good about just saying it.
which actually reduces your internal motivation, your drive, to do the hard work required to achieve it. You confuse the pleasant feeling of the announcement with the achievement itself.
Psychos call that social reality.
That's the term. You satisfy the social need for recognition just by talking, so the internal urgency to actually perform, to execute, diminishes.
So what's the Stoic path here? Just don't talk about your goals.
Essentially, yes. Epictetus put it simply. First, learn the meaning of what you say, and then speak. Prioritize action over announcement.
Work in private. Struggle in private, maybe.
Let people wonder what you're up to. Let them be surprised when you emerge with the finished product, the actual result. The announcement should be the punctuation mark at the end, never a substitute for the work itself.
That focus on execution, on the work, that gets tested under pressure, doesn't it?
It's revealed most clearly under duress, which brings us right to the core of discipline. Discipline is silence under pressure.
Pressure doesn't build character, it reveals it. Is that the idea?
That's exactly it. Obstacles, setbacks, criticism, they aren't interruptions to your discipline, they are the very testing ground for it, like Aurelius wrote.
The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way.
Right. That difficulty is the path. True strength, real character, shows itself when the stakes are high, when you're criticized unfairly, when uncertainty hits hard.
And the goal is always to create that space, that gap between the stimulus and the response.
That precious gap, that pause, that's where your freedom lives. That's where discipline is exercised.
So instead of immediately lashing out or making excuses,
You observe the feeling, you acknowledge the pressure, and then you consciously choose a measured, rational response. That silent pause, that moment of non-reaction, is the very foundation of self-mastery.
which leads to Seneca's ultimate measure of power, doesn't it?
It does. Most powerful is he who has himself in his own power. Think about that. If you can't control the small impulses of your own mouth,
Gossip, bragging, making needless excuses.
then you can't really control anything else, can you? Certainly not your long-term actions, your projects, your emotional state. Those small failures of self-governance reveal a deeper lack of control.
So silence becomes like a diagnostic tool for self-mastery.
In a way, yes. Your progress isn't measured by how much you know or how smart you sound. It's measured by your ability to sit in silence, to observe a strong thought without needing to voice it immediately.
Or to feel an intense emotion without broadcasting it to everyone around you.
Exactly. Every single time you choose that discipline over the immediate impulse, you build character. You build real, unshakable self-respect.
And that self-respect, that internal foundation, that's what builds your legacy.
Which is the final principle we should touch on. Your legacy is ultimately built in silence, not in noise.
When we look back at figures like Aurelius or Seneca, we don't remember them because they were the loudest talkers, do we?
Not at all, or the most verbose writers necessarily. We remember their impact. And that impact came from quiet strength, from profound wisdom, and from the complete disciplined living of their principles day in, day out.
It wasn't performance, it was substance.
Right. And we absolutely have to remember memento mori here, remember death. It's arguably the most vital Stoic concept for motivating action.
Because time is the one resource you can't get back.
It's the only resource you cannot replenish. Every single moment you spend in unnecessary conversation, in complaining, in justifying yourself defensively.
That's a moment diverted from actual execution, from building something real.
Nobody lies on their deathbed wishing they'd won more arguments. They look at their results, the impact they had, the life they built. And those results are almost always forged in the unseen, silent hours.
Hours of focus, integrity, and just disciplined work when nobody's watching.
Exactly. So we really leave you with the choice the Stoics presented thousands of years ago, and it's just as relevant today.
Will you continue to just give away your power through careless words, through noise, through reaction?
Or will you choose the other path, the path of discipline, where you speak less, maybe, but say infinitely more with your actions and your controlled words?
It reminds me of that final challenge from Marcus Aurelius. So powerful.
Which one?
Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one.
Stop talking about it, just embody it.
Yeah. So here's a thought experiment for you listening. What if you genuinely spent the next year talking, say, 50% less?
Then working, focusing, executing 50% more. Imagine the foundation you could build in that time.
That respect you've been chasing, maybe through validation, through trying to explain yourself, through words.
It will likely come to you naturally, effortlessly even, through your actions, through the substance you build.
Go build your legacy
Okay.
in silence,